Change is everywhere with this new administration, and shrinking the government workforce has been a pretty top priority. Federal workforce includes the Department of Health and Human Services, which you might know about. And that group has been cut by about 20 to 25%, and people don't really know what to expect from that. The administration has also proposed changing how some of the NIH funding is delivered and what amounts. That also is going to lead to some uncertainty. But why am I talking about all of this? Well, it's because people don't really understand how much time, money, effort, and basically mental fortitude it takes into developing a new drug like these new GLP-1 medications that have been dominating the media waves today. This process is long, it's slow, and it costs a lot of money. And the changes that are being proposed by the new administration are going to affect that. Now, if you look at this graph, it shows a lot of medications, not just obesity medications, but a lot of medications that were developed over the past 10 years. And why 10 years? Well, because it takes at least 10 years for a new medication to go from the idea in the laboratory where it was developed to actually get to you. And it also costs a lot of money, a lot of research dollars, a lot of clinical trial dollars. And this image from the Journal of the American Medical Association illustrates that fact. And if you look along the x-axis, we're talking about billions of estimated R&D costs. R&D stands for research and development. So while some medications don't cost that much, a lot of them cost a whole lot. Why? Well, it's because the FDA, which is part of HHS and part of one of the agencies that's being cut, mandates that certain clinical trials be done with any new medication before it gets to you. Why is that important? Well, these drugs need to be proven to be safe, but also to be effective before they are released. So here's another image that sort of illustrates the different phases of drug development. So on the far left in orange, you see what's called the preclinical work, and that means both the laboratory, like the Petri dish, and then the animal studies. And once you have animal studies where you think the drug works, you're like, okay, let's go. And you start what's called phase 1 trials. Now, phase 1 trials are relatively small, and they're mostly about the safety of the drug. And they're done to try to figure out what a safe treatment dosage range can be. And these studies are often actually done in healthy individuals as opposed to people who are suffering from the disease that the drug is intended to treat. Now, if that all goes well, we move on to phase 2. Phase 2 is a bigger study, more expensive. And at this stage, what happens is the drug is tested in a population that it's intended to treat, so has the disease. And the different doses are evaluated to see if they actually work. Does the medication do what it's supposed to do? If you pass through phase 2, you get on to what's sort of the holy grail of clinical trials, or the phase 3 trials, which are the large-scale, randomized, placebo-controlled studies that show that drug X is better than a placebo, but also that drug X is better than drug Y sometimes. And this phase plays the critical role in determining whether the drug ends up getting approved by the FDA at the end. And those studies cost on the order of millions of dollars to perform. So if you're lucky enough that your drug makes it through your phase 3 trial and it works and it's great, everybody's happy, makes it to market, the regulation is not done there, or the oversight is not done there. Moves on to what's called post-market analysis, or phase 4, where FDA is looking for sort of rarer side effects, because you might need millions of patients on a drug to see them, or to see if there are any side effects that come from prolonged use of that drug. So not something you would see if it's only in a clinical trial that's for a year. So that's how it works. And why is that important? Well, punchline is that the average drug costs about $2 to $3 billion to get to market. And right now, about half of that is funded by the federal government, and the other half is funded by Big Pharma, really a 50-50 split. Now, if Maha really wants to get Big Pharma out of the research world, but at the same time as cutting NIH funding, I'm not exactly sure who they think is going to pay for drug development that costs $2 to $3 billion. So what's more likely to happen is that it's just going to slow new drug development because there won't be more money put in. You, as a consumer, need to know that because it may impact how you view some of these cuts. I also think it's important when people complain about how much medications cost and sort of demonize the pharmaceutical industry, such as the new administration. They really should know how hard and expensive it is to take a drug from the idea stage to the marketplace and cut them a little bit of a break because it's a long and arduous process. So there are new drugs coming out all the time, including new anti-obesity medications that are in development. And so those aren't necessarily going to be impacted by the cuts that are happening now, but 10, 15 years from now, people might feel in the bite, feel in the pinch. So if you like hearing about this kind of topic, if you're interested in these sorts of things, you can check out this video here where I talk about the MAHA agenda, or just subscribe to my channel and get access to all my videos. So hopefully you'll tune in.